ahead and get started with questions. Both players are here. We'll go ahead and start with Cheryl, then we'll go to Julia.
Hello, ladies. How you doing today? Welcome to Chicago. I'd like to ask both of you, Courtney and then Izzy, how did you come to this decision to join the Chicago Sky?
You will go first?
Oh yeah, I got you. I'll go first. For me, I think it was just the best situation for me. I love the way James Wade play. Kahleah hit me and she was like, yo, like, let's get after it. And that's all I really need to hear. So yeah, it was kind of easy for me, to be honest.
And Izzy?
Pretty much similar to that. I knew there was a big move from Candace moving out. And I knew obviously I feel like I could come in and play an important and essential role for the team. So I was just like, that's going to be the best situation for me. And I've already told this to James. I just, again, for him to be in this league and be as successful as he has. And I've always heard good things about him. So, I was just ready and excited to be in Chicago.
Thank you.
We'll go Julia and then Annie.
Hey, Courtney and Izzy, great to meet you both. Looking forward to covering you in Chicago. James has talked about how this is really an opportunity for the Sky to kind of change the style of play that they're playing. So how would both of you describe both what you hope that style is and how you can fit into that?
Could you repeat that question? I couldn't hear you all the way.
Yeah, sorry about that. So James has talked about how this season is an opportunity for the Sky to really kind of re-identify themselves and the style of play. So how do both of you define what that new style of play is, and how do you think that you fit into that?
I'm not quite clear on, how James is going to just rebrand this team. I wouldn't even say rebrand or rebuild. I just think he has new pieces and he's going to put us exactly where we need to be. I think he already knows how me and Courtney play. So obviously, we're here for a reason. So I think however we can plug in and play our role, but also enhance the others around us. I think we're both excited to see what that looks like.
Perfect. Oh, Courtney, if you want to.
Yeah, I think the style of play is gonna be fast, right? I think Iz can get out. I think I get out. I think Kahleah and Marina. I think we have a lot of players that want to get out and run and push pace and get after it. So I think that'll definitely be our base foundation. Just people that are scrappy and want to play fast.
We'll go Annie and then James K.
What's up, ladies? Pleasure to meet you via Zoom. Looking forward to covering you. Question for both of you. This is a new era of the Sky, and you are both coming in and replacing stars that existed here in Chicago. I wonder how you approach that. Do you feel pressure by that, or are you excited about that? How would you describe your feelings about coming in and replacing some Chicago legends?
For me personally, I don't feel no pressure. I don't feel no pressure at all. I feel like, we all tie our shoes up the same way. We put in a position where we could do what we do. We gonna excel. And I'm a star too. He is a star too. So I think you put us in a position, we gonna excel and we gonna become Chicago stars too. And that's how I go.
For sure. And obviously, whoever made the decision to leave, that's on them. And I'm glad it just opened up that door for me and Court to come in and honestly do something special and new with Chicago. But like she said, we play against these guys all the time, and whoever might have whatever name attached to them, but we still know how to play. And I've played against every player in this league and have done well. So I'm excited to just do that now in Chicago with Court, Ka, Marina, and James.
Courtney, for the record, whose ball was it? Need it on the record.
It was both foul ball.
All right, we'll go to James K and then Carly Bell.
Hey, all. Nice to meet you. Looking forward to covering you this season. Courtney, you talked about Ka hitting you up for that free agency pitch. I mean, what did that entail? If you could share it with us.
Yeah, nah, Kai hit me and was like, yo, I need a killer at the wing spot with me. And she said, and I already know like how you get after it. And I said, I asked her a couple questions just about the city and, little things. But when it came down to it, like, she hungry, I'm hungry. And when you bring players together that got that same mentality, it's gonna be something special. So, that's all I really need to hear. And also,
Absolutely. And Izzy, since James has come into the fold as the Sky's head coach, the Sky have generated the most shots at the rim across, more than any other team in the WNBA. And I'm just kind of curious, like, as someone who's kind of hinted at having a more expanded role on the offensive end, how much does it excite you to come here and be able, again, to be a part of an offense that generates a lot of those looks? And how important was that for you when you were making your decision about free agency this offseason?
Yeah, every year I'm looking forward to expand my role and to grow my game. So I just saw that opportunity as a chance to grow as well. I know what those players were for Chicago that left and what they brought. And again, I'm working on those things as well. So I'm excited to have the opportunity and just to prove to, again, James and the team that I can step into that role and deliver.
Thank you.
We'll go Carly Bell and then Brian Teague.
Hi, ladies. Nice to meet you all via Zoom. Can't wait to work with you guys in person. This is a question for both of you. You guys are both with Athletes Unlimited right now. And right now, the chemistry with the team is something that's kind of up in the air. What are you guys doing currently through AU or just through text messages to help build chemistry before, May comes around or before training camp?
Chemistry amongst just everybody here, or me and Courtney, or chemistry with the girls in Chicago?
Let's start with just you and Courtney first, and then, to you guys as a whole as a team.
Well, I don't know if y'all know this, but I've been playing with Courtney for like years.
I was just about to say that.
For years, we got drafted to Phoenix together. So ever since then, I promise you, like, we've been so locked in. So we know what each other brings and what we can do for each other on the court. So it's never been a problem with me playing with Courtney. I know what she likes. I know how she wants to get her scoring. And I think vice versa, she's the same with me. I feel like with Ka, I would say I haven't got to connect with her as much. Obviously, different teams and whatever the case may be, but she'll be an all-star and I'll be an all-star. So I think that'll be a chance for us to finally like meet in person, talk to each other, because once she found out about the trade or the move that I made there to Chicago, she hit me up immediately and, just welcomed me and just with open arms. So I'll be excited to talk to her when we get to Utah.
Perfect. We'll go Brian and then Mark.
Courtney, Izzy, welcome to Chicago. My only question to both of you guys is, what can Chicago fans expect to see from both of you this season?
I can expect to see two go-getters. Like we want to get after it, we want to win. So that's what we're gonna bring every night. Bringing that intensity, bringing that energy, and just getting after it every night.
I think you guys can look forward to, this may be a new team, but we've all had experiences with one another that we played ball. Like, I'm coming in with Marina. We played the last 2 seasons together in Dallas. So again, she knows my game and vice versa. So you have a situation where players are coming into, I don't want to say rebuilding because I know what we bring to Chicago, but just a new situation, and we're all going to figure each other out. If you look around the league, everything is looking new, so we're in a position to kind of use our experience and our history to do something really good.
Thank you.
We'll go to Mark and then Rafiq.
Hey guys, good to see both of you. Question for you, Izzy. Like, obviously you have shown a ton as a DHO operator and somebody who can really make decisions at the elbow and in the high post. And obviously the Sky run a ton of motion. Court's really good moving without the ball. Obviously Ka as well. When you are like trying to integrate, like obviously you mentioned you played with Court quite a bit, but like when you're looking at like Ka, for instance, like what kind of things are you doing to prep? Like, okay, this is how I want to look at like maybe where I'm getting you place the ball or how I'm screening for you. Like, obviously I know we're a ways off from like seeing that, but is that something you're processing already and thinking through?
So for me, I've had my experience with Ka when we played them, not this season, but the last season, and we almost knocked them out that one and done round when we were with Chicago. And I watched so much film on her and how she's able to use her speed. And if you just give her a good screen, sometimes she don't even need the screen, but if you're there fast enough to give her a screen, she gets to the rim every single time. And as a post player, that's my best thing. I have a guard that's able to attack. So now they're going to respect her more. And now I'm wide open. So now that I have a guard that's able to do that, I don't know. She's always brought something different to the game. So I know with me, DHOs and just pick and rolls, I know that's going to be a really good situation for us to operate with.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go Rafiq and then Mike and then Annie.
This is Rafiq with Nothing But That Sports. So I got a question for Courtney Williams. I mean, like months ago, you were in the WNBA finals while playing for the Connecticut Sun. Like, how do you plan to contribute to the Chicago Sky with the amount of finals experience that you gained during your WNBA career?
I think just doing what I've always done, right? I think I'm great at adapting to whatever situation I'm in. Like you said, I stepped into Connecticut. Obviously, I was there in 2019, but players was completely different when I went back last year, right? Like Jonquel Jones wasn't MVP Jonquel Jones in 2019. Breezy wasn't who she was, right? So I think having to step into that situation and adapt, and just kind of like figure out where I can fit in, I'm used to it, right? So I think coming here and just seeing how Chicago plays, playing fast, and the players that I'm gonna be playing with, I mean, it seems like it's gonna be an easy situation for me, right? Just doing what I do, bringing my scoring ability, my pace, my energy with the fans. So, I mean, I'm excited.
And if I could ask a follow-up question, what's the excitement level for you and Isabelle Harrison going into AU hoops?
Oh nah, man, we been hyped way before this. when we was on the phone talking about the Chicago move, we was already excited. So, like Ed said, man, me and Ed's been playing together for so long, so it just feels like more of a reuniting, not like what everybody else see, right? Like we already been here before. We played overseas in Italy together for months. So, we just excited to get after it together again.
Appreciate the insight. Good luck at AU hoops.
Appreciate it.
We'll go to Mike and then back to Annie to wrap it up.
Hey guys, appreciate the time. First and foremost, I want to say welcome to the city. And outside of just basketball, I kind of wanted to touch on what made you guys want to come to the city far more than just the organization and the team as a whole. What really drew you guys in wanting to stay here?
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button. So I was in Chicago for All-Star this past season. Y'all sold me. Like the city of Chicago is beautiful. And honestly, when we come for games, we're like in and out. So I don't even get to like really see the city. But being able to be there, I was there for like 4 days. The people are so welcoming. I just heard the best things about food. And just overall, I'm a Jordan athlete. So now that I'm able to go back in Chicago and kind of be a part of that whole situation, I'm excited to see what that's going to bring. And yeah, I appreciate you guys welcoming us with open arms, because I know we just cannot wait to get up there with the girls.
We'll go to Annie and then we'll do last question with Carly Bell.
Izzy kind of touched on this in her last answer, but I'm curious what your guys's, knowledge of the Chicago basketball culture is and how you're looking to add to that, because obviously basketball is, a very loved sport in Chicago, and the Sky have their own very unique history with the game here in the city. So I'm just curious, from a culture standpoint, what you're looking to enjoy about the city and the way that it embraces the game of basketball.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know nothing about Chicago. I don't really know nothing about Chicago. Like, I was just so on Kahleah hitting me saying, let's get after it. Like, so for me, it's really brand new. Like, I'm not even a city girl. Like, I've come from a small town in Folkestone, and then I played in Connecticut, right? So then, you know, I went to Atlanta for 2 years, and that was a lot for me. So coming to Chicago, the big city, like, I'm curious to see, you know, how it's gonna be for me, because I'm not used to the city at all. Like, so I'm excited for sure. I know it's gonna be different. That was one of the questions I asked Kahleah, like, how is it? Because this is about to be different for me. But I mean, I'm excited. It's about the basketball for me, right? Like, I'm just excited to hoop and get after it. And I think all of the intangibles gonna come with it. So if it add on, I'm here for it. If it don't, we still trying to win, right? So I'm definitely excited just to see what that culture is about, right? And just see, like,
We'll wrap it up with Carly Bell. Last question.
This question's for Courtney. I met your dad in the semifinals. How much energy did he have? Any input on where you wanted to go? Are we gonna see that same type of energy at Wintrust? Were you gonna see a whole Williams family? What are we gonna see at Wintrust this year, man?
He took one of the assist coaches hit and was like, I'm not gonna be able to talk trash to me. He on our side now. So man, he's super excited. I'm excited for everybody just to feel my pop's energy actually on y'all side this time. So we definitely excited to see what Chicago got in store for us.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Izzy. Appreciate your guys' time. They got to run. So thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Perfect. I think James is on. Let me see. Yeah, if you could start raising your hands if you want to ask James Wade a question, and then we will go from there. There he is. Okay, perfect. We'll start with Cheryl and then go to Annie.
Hi, James. Long time no see.
Hey, Cheryl.
James, what has this process been like? From our vantage point, it seems very almost chaotic for us, but what has it been like for you, the process of free agency and what you had to do to put this team together?
It's the job, you know. We had our priorities and, you know, we weren't able to, you know, get the signatures and Candace and Sloot. And, you know, we just try to construct a team of players that are going to complement each other and that are able to have one voice so we can continue to, you know, build on what we built the last 4 years.
But how did you do it once you knew you didn't have the players you used to have? How did you go about deciding where to go, how to go, and who to get?
Just strategize. We have a player. That's the one thing I can say about our staff is we know the league very well. And this is something that you have to study 2 years out. Just like we're preparing for free agency 2 years from now and next year. This is something you always have to have in the back of the Rolodex and you know what players are free and you know how you construct your roster. And you know that players want to play with great players. So the good thing about us is that we have a cornerstone in Kahleah Copper to build around, and we feel that she's ready to take on new heights, and you know the players that we signed, they're players that we think complement her to the best of her ability. So that's how we prepare. Mabry, Courtney, Elizabeth, Izzy, they were very important players for us, as well as making sure that we had Rebecca signed, and we think that we have a good team going into 2023.
Thank you for your time, James.
We'll go Annie and then Carly Bell.
What's up, James? Good to see you again.
Hey,
how are you? I'm curious how much Courtney and Izzy, specifically their intangibles, played into you pursuing them so hard, because you've talked a lot about the culture that you and your staff have built here in Chicago. And so, yeah, when you're looking to restructure your team around one specific player being Ka, or I guess not just one player, but how much did other things like their personality and again, like I said, those intangibles play into going after these two?
It meant a lot. We wanted players that have a high motor that matches Ka's. I think we remember the game last year, the last game of the year. You saw where Ka motor was on 10 and she was everywhere. And we just wanted players that matched that. And we think the intensity will be there, but we know you have to play hard to be successful in this league. And we thought that those were two players that are going to fight for every loose ball. And I think they, if you look at our roster, if you go down from players 1 through 11, I think you can kind of imagine the style and intensity and athleticism that we're going to try to play with this year. And so I felt like filling that roster out with those type of players, and especially players that are bought in and just ready to sacrifice for each other. I think it's going to lead to a special season.
And then one quick follow-up, obviously, this roster saw a lot of turnover or departures of significant contributors to the franchise. How much are you already, encouraging the players coming in to come in as themselves? Like, they're not here to fill shoes, they're here to show up as the players that they are. I wonder if that's something that you're already discussing with them.
Yeah, I think we did that during the interview process. I encourage the players to, we've always allowed the players to come in and we want them to be them for who they are. I think it's something that they felt really, really good about. I want to bring out the best in them, and it's not going to be comparable to anybody else that we've had on our roster. And that's how I always wanted. And I think I was encouraged to do that when I came into this league as a coach. And it's something that, brought out the best in me. And I'm going to encourage the players to do the same thing. And we did that during the interview process. And I feel like everybody was bought in and locked in. And I think you're going to see a chemistry that's going to allow us to be a better team in September than we are in May. And I think that's the goal. I don't know if we were that last year. But we were a really special team last year and we had really special talent and they played really well together. But this is a new chapter for us and I feel like we're going to do some special things.
Perfect. We'll go Carly Bell and then Julia.
Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing well. You alluded to your style of play. It seems like with what you built, you just want to run everyone out of the gym. You got a track team going here. Was that kind of the idea that you wanted to build? You said you liked playing fast, so looks like that's what you got this year. Is that the style of play that we can expect this year?
I like playing fast, but in order to do that, I think you have to get stops, and I think we'll be able to do that. I was fortunate enough to see, Kai and Marina play together at Team USA this last week, and I thought it was a really, really special connection and just made me wonder, like we can do some special things with those two. And you've seen Courtney the way she plays, you've seen Izzy the way she plays, and Elizabeth the way she plays. So we have an athletic group. Now it's just about gelling them together and getting them excited to actually sacrifice for each other. And I think that's the thing, like having the excitement at, having common goals. I think that's the thing that, that's the thing that our staff has to do. And everybody knows about my system and how we play, and our style will be a little different, but our staff is like really, really smart. And I think it's about us adapting to the players more than about the players adapting to any system that I can give them. So we've already started breaking down film and, seeing what kind of offense and defensive things that we can do with these players. And I think the restructuring will be a little bit quicker than a lot of people will think.
speaking of restructuring, I know you kind of talked about the emergence of Rebecca Gardner last year, but how important was that for you to make sure that she was on this 2023 team, especially with the type of team that you've built this year? How important was that for you to have her back this season?
She's very important. I think we had a comfort level with Rebecca while we were trying to, restructure our roster, where she was a reserve player, and the conversations were fluid, and she was really patient, and but it was never a question whether she was going to be with us or not. She's someone that she's basically, I told her this, like, she changed my life. I went from, y'all still don't trust me, but I went from a GM that, that nobody really trusted, to finding a gym and everybody said he's kind of smart. Only the last week they say I'm back dumb again, but it's cool.
And then I just have one quick follow-up. What was it about Isabelle Harrison's game that really kind of stuck out to you? You lost all your posts, they all left. What was it about her game that really kind of spoke to you that you really wanted to bring into this season?
Her motor and her desire to be great. It was evident in our earlier conversations that she feels like she has some things to prove, and she has a chip on her shoulder. And I'm one person that's the way I coach, because that's the way, I feel. So, and I feel like we saw common ground in that. And she's always given us trouble because she plays so hard, because she runs so hard, and because she screens so well. And I just feel like those are attributes that we could use on our team. And when you talk about those things, those are things that you do for your teammates. It wasn't about, I can score this way, or I can score this way. It was more about, all right, the things that I do well are the things that I can do for my teammates. The screening, the running, the rolling, the DHOs, and getting out of them quick. So those are attributes that I think every team needs. And I think, she's going to fit really well in what we're trying to accomplish here.
Thank you, Coach.
We'll go Julia, then James K, and then Ben Pickman.
Hey, James, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for taking the time today. Something that both Courtney and Izzy talked about was just the impact of Kahleah, obviously, on their decision to come to Chicago. Mm-hmm. How much have you seen her grow in kind of that leadership aspect of herself in this off season, and just how much of an asset was she in attracting talent and kind of doing some of that recruiting in this off season?
She was amazing. And we've had some great conversations, and it's you can see it kind of grow in front of your eyes. And every year she's taking bigger and bigger steps, and she's proven that there's really no cap on what people think, that she can be. And she's kind of burst through every ceiling that people have tried to put on her. And so the next step is this, her leadership is going to be key. Her ability to make big plays for us down the stretch has been key and will continue to grow and be key. And her voice, she's the one that's been around to see our culture grow. And so she's going to be a main proponent of that on the floor in practice and off the floor as well. And she's been that throughout the recruiting process. And so that's something I'm very proud of. And I'm just really, really fortunate. And I think our organization is very fortunate to have her here and to be that sounding board for us and to be that example setter for us. So we're excited for her continued growth. And so we expect special things from her this year.
We'll go to James K and then Ben Pickman.
Hey, Coach, thank you so much for your time. One thing that we talked about after you all went on that championship run was just how, as COD continues to develop, one part of her game that, that you worked on overseas is her expanding as a facilitator. And I'm just curious, after losing someone like Courtney Vandersloot, Candace and Emma, both the secondary facilitators there, are you looking for Ka to expand or just take on a bigger role as a facilitator for this upcoming season?
For sure. She's been working a lot in this offseason on pick and roll reads and things of that nature. But at the same time, we want her to be her. So we're going to always work to expand her game, but we don't want her to be too much of a facilitator where she's not looking at the basket. So I think the main thing is about Kai. She gets buckets. And so we're going to try, we will put together something that makes it easier for her to do so. And at the same time, grow her ability to continue to progress in decision making and making plays for other players or our teammates and stuff like that. But we want Kai to be her, and we know that she's going to get buckets for us. So that's just an added bonus for us.
She jokingly talked about at USA Basketball about being the assistant GM. And I'm just curious, how involved was she in all these decisions? I mean, Courtney Williams talked about how Ka was recruiting her a little bit. I'm not sure if Izzy said the same thing, but was she the the unofficial assistant GM and trying to recruit some of the players that have come into the fold now?
She really was. And we had a lot of discussions, and if it wasn't, against the rules, I would have to pay her for it, but that's against the rules. And we know that in Chicago, so, it was just really special to see, and to see her and to have those conversations and get her thought process about things. And she would hit me up and say, what you think about this player? And me breaking down, okay, this is what we see, and this is where I think you guys complement each other. And you tell her about another player, this is where I think where maybe she won't fit in the system that we're trying to run, or things like this. And so we've had like numerous discussions about that. And so she was very much a part of everything. And you like that. It shows that you're invested, and and it affected a lot of our decisions on what kind of team we were trying to put around her. And we knew that, the type of players that fit her psyche. And so that's what we tried to go after.
Thanks, Coach.
We'll go to Ben and then Mark.
James, how's it going?
All right.
Just following up on that, what you just said was, having those sorts of conversations with Cobb, was that a new part of your relationship this year, and kind of the most you involved her in terms of talking about free agents and, trying to pick her brain on general offseason transactions?
I think it was the most. We've talked before about different players in the past and stuff like that, but it was the most because basically it was just, me and Kai. Before it was other players, you had other players that you talk to those things through. I'm not saying I didn't talk to Dana or players like that. I kept them updated, Rebecca, kept them updated. But Kai's the one that you really enjoy brainstorming with. And, and it's a trust level amongst all of them. But at the end of the day, when you have your franchise player, and you want to make sure that they understand and they know, and you want to get their input on certain moves and on certain players, because sometimes their ear is closer to the ground than yours, especially when it comes to player personnel. And so this is probably, the most that we've talked. I mean, in the past, I've talked to Sloot and Allie and Candace, and because they were older vets in the league, and they were in the league a longer time. So this is a new chapter for Kai and our team. And I feel like, she's going to have a lot of input, and you're going to see, her face a lot more, and probably less shared as you've seen it, before. And I think she deserves that and so much more.
And just real quick, I mean, you mentioned, you joked about Rebecca and how you went from being a dumb GM to a smart GM to now a dumb GM again, or, how that's your perceived.
I just read Twitter. I read the Twitter just like everybody.
Exactly. How do you feel, if at all, like your approach just generally as a general manager has changed over time? Like, what do you feel like, I don't know, you've learned about yourself or evaluating players, or how the market has changed as you've been doing this more?
I think that's a great question. So I think my approach has changed is that I lean on my experience a lot. I lean on my experience a lot, and I read the market as much as, you know, you have good poker players, you have good people when it comes to the money market. I think I'm really, you know, adverse at reading the basketball market when it comes to the WNBA. And I take all the ego out of it, and I just take it for what it is. And when I make mistakes, I make them, but I learn from them, and I try to analyze on how I, you know, what mistakes I've made, and, you know, and I try to, you know, come back through them, whether that's, you know, making a bad first round selection and trading for a second rounder that allows you to go out and sign a almost max player because you have $7,000 extra dollars. So I try to just learn from those things. And you know, I'm still learning, and one day hopefully I can get it right and win a championship or executive of the year or something like that. So hopefully we'll see.
Awesome. We'll go to Mark, Brian, and then we'll finish it up with Mike Hughes. So Mark and then Brian.
Hey, James, good to see you. So kind of going off that as well, you know, I was wondering, like, when you are looking at, you know, evaluating, you know, trades or how you're going to go about doing things, what are those staff's conversations like when you're, because obviously, like you mentioned, like, you guys know player personnel extremely well. And that, of course, extends to college, like seeing how the prospect landscape is looking. Like when you're talking about, like, okay, you know, like making this trade and, you know, giving up draft capital or however you want to look at it, like, what are those conversations like, and kind of trying to gauge, you know, where you're at from an evaluation standpoint as a staff?
So the one thing with the market is, I think last year we built a really great team, and I think it kind of surprised people. And I think the reason we were able to build a great team is because of players. And that's what I think people probably don't put in a real perspective is, as you see these super teams starting to get, you know, what you guys proclaim as super teams. I'm just quoting from the Twitter, but what you guys proclaim to be super teams, we saw a mass exodus of great players going to play with players. So draft capital really didn't mean that much. So how you stay flexible is, okay, we traded draft capital to go get players, but those players are the players that the players want to play against. So what that does is that makes you a bigger player when it comes to free agency. And I think that's the thing that, you know, we talk so much about 24 and 25 draft or 23 draft. If I gave you an opportunity, if I told you and I said, hey, look here, I give you, you know, two choices. Today, I will let you, you know, speak with our 23 and 24 draft pick every day if you want. Or you can speak with Marina Mabry. Who would you speak with?
Oh, Marina, for sure.
Why?
Because
she does more for
me. I know what she does, and she brings a lot of good stuff to the table.
All right. Same thing here. All right. I know what she does, and I know what she brings to the table. So that's who we're going to rock with. And I understand that 23 and 24 draft picks could be great players. I'm not fucking planning on losing. So I don't know where they're going to be at. And my thing is, I know what Marina brings, and I know that our players and other great players want to play with her. I don't know how much more they would want to play with draft pick 23 or draft pick 24. So you got to weigh those things. You have to weigh those things, and everything's a risk. I mean, that's the part of the job. It's a risk. And so that's what, you know, that's the risk that we were willing to take to get a great ball handler and someone who we think can complement the way we want to play and the style we want to play. She's tough. She can shoot. She can dribble, pass, and shoot, you know, and she can play two positions, which makes her even more valuable. And, you know, she's at that place where she's 25, 26 years old, where she's just coming into her prime. So we don't have this 2-year buffer that we have to wait on her to know the league. And I think that's a good timing for us, especially with the players that we have, where we have 10 players that are between 25 and 30 And now it's just about gelling that talent together and saying, hey, look, you guys have to sacrifice. We have a culture in place, and you say you want to win. Well, this is how you do it. And we know that they understand the league enough to get it. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, I really appreciate that. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up with Brian Teague and then Mike Hughes. Brian, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Hey, James, how you been?
Hey, Brian, what's up?
So just a quick question for you. Just you talked about Courtney and Izzy, in the past, being people that are very physical and bring toughness. Was that something that was a premium for you when you were looking to, rebuild and re-up things here?
Yeah, I mean, the rebuild thing, I don't know, because it's like we started from nothing, and we have a platform that has some nice trophies in it. So, but we restructured. I think you have to identify which direction you go in, and what kind of identity that you want to saturate yourself in. And Kai is a big part of that. And so what's going to complement her? What's going to complement her? And I think the toughness that they bring, the athleticism that they bring. And I think, we had to identify players that were like that. And the hunger part. So you have a player like Courtney who's gotten to the big dance a couple of times and hadn't gotten there, hasn't gotten over the edge. You have a player like Isabelle Williams who, felt like she, could have been better last year in a better role. And so we knew that she was hungry. The same thing with Isabelle Harrison. You have post players that are really hungry, really athletic, and long. And that all have high motors. And you have a player like Marina who's really looking to prove herself in this league and show, second round pick, similar to players that we've had on our, roster before. When you talk about Rebecca or Allie Quigley, that have that chip on their shoulder where they know that they're greater players than they're getting credit for. And so you just want to help them be themselves. So we identified all those things. And now this is what I think we've created. And same thing goes for Elena Smith. We know that her role, and she never materialized into who she felt that she was in Phoenix. And what we talked about with her is it's hard once you go to a veteran laden team. Same thing with Rebecca last year. When you go to a veteran laden team and those players, they know the league and they have that respect, and you have to earn it day in and day out, it can be tough on a player. Now we have players that all feel the same way. And we don't have that veteran that's going to really hover over them and say, hey, look, this is the way that you have to do it. Now, I'm not saying that's positive or negative, because everybody wants those type of veterans. What I'm saying is we have some hungry players that's going to really show themselves. And now it's on us as a staff to say, this is how we do it together.
Thank you.
Mike Hughes, last question, please.
Hey, James, it's really good seeing you again, man.
You sure?
I was wondering, yeah, always, bro. What are you talking about? Don't do this. Don't do this early in the year, man.
Not this early in the year. Okay, I'll wait. I'll give y'all the attitude.
Come back to me in May. We could do it all day. I promise you.
Cool.
But I was curious. I was kind of talking to Kyle about it not too long ago, and looking at the trades and kind of trading the draft capital that, obviously ended up being Marina. For you, though, a 4-team deal, not very typical when you look at, the conversations that go into that. What are those like, and what's that process really like, feeling that out, obviously not trying to, give the most, but also trying to get what you intended to get?
So I talked to like a veteran GM, and he told me, he was like, he's been a GM he was like, this was the most brutal, man. And I was like, oh, it was? Like, I didn't know. Like, I still got Similac on my lips. I didn't know if it was that brutal or not. I knew it was tough, and it was consistent phone calls, but I felt like that kind of put me in the fold. I think, I think it was difficult, and I think we were able to get to a place where I think everybody was not only happy, but I felt like it was good for the players too. And You know, and I feel like once you move on, you have to move forward. And the way the market value went, even for another player on another team that went to Atlanta, it was the same thing. Like the market goes, you know, where the market goes and you just have to follow. But the thing is I think we got the best player out of the deal. I know we got the best player out of the deal. And that's all I can concern myself with. And the reason you had to strategize. Okay. So the first thing was, okay, it was 23 and 25. But it was very important for us. It was 24. But the reason why it was 24, nobody really thought about this, was because we went 26 and 10 last year.
Mhm.
So we would actually have to go 3 and 37 for us to probably be get the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick. The fact that it's a 2-year accumulation, it's like, okay, maybe it's better to come off the 24 pick. And plus, we plan on having a great year this year. That pick really isn't going to mean as much. Now, what I've also been doing is we've been overseas, like trying to find a good player who probably the first 4 years they came off their rookie scale, didn't, you know, play the way they wanted to, but maybe are coming into their own right now. And I think we found a couple of those. So the draft didn't mean as much to us this year, even though we feel like it's going to have some great players, but none of them compared to Marina. And so what it comes down to is Marina going to be more important for us than the 23 and 24? And for us, it was a no-brainer.
I appreciate you, James. I'll see you soon, man.
All right, man.
I'm gonna see you in May.
I'll still be up by then. I'll still be feeling good by then. So it's cool.
All right, for sure.
All right.
Thank you everyone for joining. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. With Elizabeth, Marina, and Astu tomorrow. So 2 p.m. we sent the Zoom link already, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, James, for joining us.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. James will be there tomorrow too. So
I will be.
thank you all.